Albedo got a ton of love with this update. Not only did he get a shiny new event continuing his story with some of the more generous rewards we've had in a while from an event, but he got a new best in slot weapon that is practically as perfect for him as Mjolnir is for Thor. And not to mention a new artifact set that's perfect for him if you're willing to actually wade through the sea of clam artifacts that are coming your way. But if you're like me, you will endure anything for Ito's sake, and anything you get for Albedo is just a bonus. Prior to this, Albedo was pretty jank with his Harbinger of Dawn, and as nice as it is to only need a weapon that you've probably dusted about 500 copies of at this point, it's also kind of sad to be using a 3-star weapon on a 5-star character. What some newer players might not know is that Albedo didn't really do so well his first time around on the banner. He had the unfortunate circumstance of being sandwiched right between Zhongli and Ganyu, and while that may sound like heaven for some of you degenerates out there, it's not exactly where you want to be if you hope people actually wish on your banner, and not a lot of people did. Oh yeah, and there was also the small detail where his banner was basically considered the Bennett banner, and people were also rolling on it for official. While there may be no way to definitively prove this fact, based on like community reaction, a lot of Albedo's banner sales probably came from people trying to just get Bennett, since this was his first rate up banner and all. But that aside, he wasn't exactly impressing anyone with his abilities, both literally and figuratively. The short and simple of Albedo's contributions to a team was Albedo go up, team damage go down. He was just some low maintenance passive damage and a burst you rarely wanted to actually cast outside of having his C2, since it was just better to invest completely in the skill and its defense scaling, leaving the burst itself to hit like a wet noodle, also known as Toma. However, he still made his way onto some teams, but he never really reached the kind of success you might imagine a 5-star support character would. Despite that, he was rarely ever the topic of needing buffs, like some other usual suspects. And that's not exactly surprising. He was just kind of like okay, and I think most people had him just kind of either forgot about him or they were just okay with him being average because they just loved the character himself, and he is great. I love Albedo. But then comes patch 2.3 with the Albedo emergency supply kit, and while he may not be shattering the meta like Bennett or Xingqiu, he got a massive increase in power through new equipment alone. This gave Albedo a huge boost in power I never expected him to receive because much like most of the players, I just figured they forgot him. And as much as I love thinking about buffs to actual character kits themselves and what they could possibly do, I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Much like Albedo in this patch, it's always possible to receive indirect buffs through weapons and artifacts. We have some characters like this still that don't have things that are tailor-made for them, and at one point even Child was among them. We got him a decent amount of time before we ever got the Peak of Indir and got our hands on the Heart of Depth set, so you never know when a character is suddenly going to get some love. For example, it took basically all the healers a long time to get the Clam set. Maiden Beloved just wasn't really cutting it. We didn't really need our healers to heal more, we just needed them to do something that wasn't healing. So now that the event is finally concluded and we actually got our hands on the R5 Cinnabar Spindle, what's the difference? Well, pre-patch, my Albedo was hitting 5,621 damage with his crits on his Isotomas, with his decent Noblesse set and his level 60 Harbinger of Dawn. And no, I was not going to level this thing beyond this point. I was not going to invest materials into this 3-star weapon for less than 13% crit damage. I didn't even use Albedo that much, so it just didn't make any sense. Now, with his new shiny R5 Cinnabar Spindle and a mostly complete husk set outside of an attack Sans, because I cannot get my hands on a defense Sans no matter how much resin I dump into this godforsaken domain, he's hitting for 13,183. And that is a huge increase. That is more than double. And while it may not be an even playing field because of the Harbinger of Dawn, it's not going to make a huge difference. It is still going to be a little bit more than double. It's pretty crazy that his damage actually more than doubled with just a free weapon that everyone's going to get their hands on and a new artifact set. Even if it may not exactly been intended for him, it's clearly made to sell Ito and make Ito better, but it's literally made perfectly for both of them simultaneously. And thank God it works just as well on him as it does Ito, because I have every intention of using Albedo in basically every party I include Ito in. Even if he may not be the meta choice or whatever the theory crafters decide is best for him, I just like the idea that Albedo is a very low maintenance source of damage and now an actual good source of damage. And quite frankly, I'm all about maximizing time spent on Ito and minimizing time spent on everyone who is not Ito. Now, will it make him used in a lot more parties? Maybe not. People probably already know the answer to that, but honestly, I don't care to look. I will probably use him more often now because he's more fun. I just like seeing the bigger numbers from him. He's still a Geo support, but he'll be a little bit stronger in the parties he was already in. And I'm certainly more excited to use him now than I was before, and not just for Ito. I also like using him with Hu Tao, and one day I will build up my Ningguang more properly, and I look forward to using him there too. But more importantly than Albedo, or whether I care about actually using him, I just want to appreciate the fact that an underrepresented character got a huge buff without actually changing their kit, because that just doesn't happen. We don't give buffs, except in the case of Zhongli, but we haven't had one since. We'll likely continue to see more of this in the future, just as we already have with the likes of Child and even the clam set for the healers. It just takes some time. Anyway, that's all. I just want to take a moment again to appreciate these new additions and what they did for Albedo, because no one really cared about it before. You can join my Discord if you'd like to hear the good word of Ito, and you can join my Patreon if you'd like to support me directly. If not, I'm happy with you just being here viewing the video. Links to both in the description. I wish you luck if you decide to wish on Albedo before he goes away again, and I hope to see you in the next one.
Freeze to the core!